Next up is the BYU Cougars. So BYU went 5-7 in their first year as a member of the Big 12 in 2023, rebounded in a major way this past year with an 11-2 record. They beat Colorado in the Alamo Bowl, and they finished number 13 in the final AP poll ranking. That was actually their best year since Zach Wilson's final year in 2020. And like that team, the 2024 version of BYU featured a quarterback that can make magical moments in Jake Retzlaff. However, he was forced to leave the program this summer. I should say he left the program this summer after facing a lengthy suspension for violating the university's honor code. The Cougars now basically have 2 months to figure out what their plan is going to be at quarterback with Retzlaff departing the program, which really makes it unlikely that BYU have similar highs as they had last year. But there are still some really good players on both the offense and the defense to still know for this team. This still could be a bowl team, even with a lot of uncertainty at quarterback right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest question we're going to have about it right now. Is it going to be McKay Hillstead, right? Is it going to be maybe the true freshman transfer, which sounds funny, from Stanford, Bear Bachmeier, right? The younger brother of Hank Bachmeier, who just graduated from Wake Forest. So, who is it going to be in this quarterback room? Because all of a sudden you head into training camp and you go, oh, this is a constant for this season that is not there.
No, we have 7 weeks to figure this out.
You have 7 weeks to figure out your starting quarterback, and it feels like now the year before, right? Wasn't it Keaton Slovis, and then they were rotating through, and Retzlaff even started 4 games in 2023. So you do have a good football team, right? You have a really good defense. You've got L.J. Martin coming back in the backfield, right? But now all of a sudden you're talking about, okay, what does this passing game look like? Because that was the difference, is that last year they were two-dimensional, and this year it doesn't right now, unless you get a miracle coming, and they got one last year in theory. Who is it going to be throwing the football?
What is their biggest strength of BYU right now, though?
Well, you're looking at their defense, and specifically their run defense. And, I mentioned last year in the Big 12 race all throughout the season, whichever team could find a way to stop the run was going to be able to compete in the Big 12. And you're talking about a team that was top 25 in it last year, and now you're bringing back several good players in that run defense. Isaiah Glasker and Jack Kelly at linebacker, Logan Latui on the defensive line. This is a team that Kalani Sitake has really gotten playing physical football. They do want to run and stop the run. They aired it out a little bit more last year with Retzlaff and those receivers, but at the end of the day, they want to win in the trenches. They want to win by stopping the run first and then controlling the game with their offense and seeing where they can complement things with their run game.
So, obviously the biggest weakness or biggest question is just a really messy quarterback situation right now. Jake Retzlaff left the program essentially in late June. He actually, as of recording right now, and he probably will by the time this comes out, but as of recording right now, he's not entered the portal yet, but all indications say he's going to be leaving the program. So only a couple months to figure out who your quarterback's going to be. Redshirt sophomore McKay Hillstead, redshirt junior Tracy Bourget, true freshman Barrett Bachmeier. Hillstead is the favorite right now to win the job. He had a 68.7 passing grade as a true freshman in 2023 at Utah State on 193 dropbacks, but just like I said, this is not an ideal situation for BYU to be in. It's one thing to lose your quarterback and have an entire offseason to figure out who your next guy's going to be. It's another thing when you lose your quarterback in the summer and you have essentially 2 months to figure out what you're going to do at quarterback after that. But Dalton, tell me more about the current favorite right now to win the job. It was still a wide open race for that quarterback battle, but right now the current favorite for most people is McKay Hillstead.
So Hillstead, he's undersized. He's 5'10", 195. And to me, when I watch him, he's a lot like Maddox Madsen over there at Boise State, where he's got to throw the ball on time. He's got to have a stable, clean pocket to work with so he can set his feet, step into the throw, and make, look, he had a 6% big-time throw rate in 2023, which is pretty good, especially considering he doesn't have a huge arm. But that's what I think about. If you can protect him, he can be efficient. He can throw the ball down the seams. He can make those throws a lot like Madsen does at Boise State. If not, and he's under pressure, then you have an issue. If they have to switch to Bourget because he's got the better athleticism, you'll probably see him even as a wildcat sort of guy. He was at Western Michigan. He's got experience. Or do they take the full gamble? And do they go and play the true freshman that they got from Stanford this spring, Bear Bachmeier, who was a 4-star recruit, was at Stanford for the spring and then transferred out and went to BYU? And we have to wonder if Bachmeier knew the whispers about how this all was going to go down. Now, I'm not trying to put any conspiracies out here, but if you have a 4-star true freshman that just went to your program on a whim, essentially, after being at another school in the spring, you have to think about it. But Hillstead, that's what I think about. If he's got a clean pocket, he can be quick and accurate, make efficient throws, especially down the middle of the field. But it's going to be a wide open competition between all three of these guys.
It's going to be a wide open one. I'm sure a lot of BYU fans are anxiously awaiting Ryder Lyons to enter that program, a 5-star quarterback who committed to BYU very recently. I don't think he'll actually get there until 2027, considering I think he's doing a mission trip after he finishes up high school. But 5-star quarterback joining BYU very soon. So there is some hope on the horizon for BYU football very, very soon, but not for a couple of years at least. But Dawn, they have a really good receiver in Chase Roberts we've got to talk about here. Chase Roberts, one of the better receivers in the Big 12 last year. He was 7th in the conference in both receiving grade and yards per route run. He is 6'4". He takes full advantage of that size. He had 14 contested catches last year. The only one who had more was a top 10 pick in Tedro McMillan among Big 12 wide receivers. Also, Chase Roberts, an elite athlete at 6'4" too. He actually placed in the 100th percentile of our game athleticism score metric back in 2022. He's easily the top weapon for whoever starts at quarterback for BYU this year.
Absolutely. I mean, they're losing Darius Lassiter, but when you have a guy on the outside like Chase Roberts with that sort of size and can win one-on-one down the field, that's the guy you have to rely on. So I would expect a lot of targets for him, and whoever the quarterback is, this is the guy that you want to lean on in big situations, especially in third down, and like you mentioned, a guy that can make those contested catches.
And BYU also has a pretty good linebacker unit next year going into it. Dawn, who's their top linebacker going into
I'll tell you what, Isaiah Glasker, and I know I'm going to light Twitter on fire for this comment, but he's kind of the BYU version of Jahad Campbell, isn't he? You just got a little bit of everything out of him. He played a significant number of reps off the edge last year. He can rush the passer. He's got really good eyes. You know, he matches the 6'5" frame with really good eyes in run defense, and he's a good enough athlete to cover. The recovery speed for him, especially working horizontally across the field, really impressive stuff. I think he's somebody, whether he does stay at off-ball linebacker or even puts on a few pounds and plays off the edge, this is somebody who's going to really intrigue NFL scouts. That's the best way. The more that I was going back and watching him again over the last few weeks, I was like, man, it feels like I'm watching a BYU version of Jahad Campbell. Just a little bit of everything. If he takes a step up in all three facets this year, he's going to be somebody who scouts are really looking at, because that build is not something you find. 6'5" and 235 and can move the way that he moves. Unbelievable athlete. Isaiah Glasker, to me, is the heart and soul of this defense.
He was one of the 10 most valuable linebackers in the country last year, according to our wins above average metric. I can't wait to watch him once again in 2025. Bottom line time now, Dalton. So BYU was one of the top contenders to win the Big 12 last year and had a great year last year. But now with Retzloff gone, their win total set at 6.5 right now. Even though it's the third easiest schedule in the Big 12 according to our power rankings, will they go over or under that win total? What's the bottom line for the Cougars?
This is tough because the best part about BYU's team last year was their ability to play complementary football, right? But when you have a quarterback question this big, they're walking into pretty much every game, maybe almost every game on their Big 12 schedule, at least right this minute, with what looks like a disadvantage at quarterback. Now, you mentioned it. They have a really good number one receiver. They're a physical team with a solid run game, but all of a sudden...
LJ Martin's a really good running back. We talk about him yet.
Right,
yeah.
But all of a sudden, you're talking about stacking the box and not knowing who your quarterback is week to week or going into the year or how that's going to go. I'm gonna 6.5 we had.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the under. Yeah. I think it feels like more like that team 2 years ago. Maybe they'll make a bowl game. Maybe they won't go 5-7 and miss out completely because that quarterback situation was a disaster. But also for this all to go down with their quarterback spot right before the season, even if they're playing the future game and going with Bear Bachmeier and maybe he's really talented and he can be the future of this program, you're still talking about a true freshman, right? And you got to break him in awfully quick. You get a soft runway opening up. You've got Portland State, Stanford. Those are games. That would be interesting, too, if Bachmeier would have started against Stanford, if he was the guy. That would be fun. But they're a good football team, but I have no idea what they have at quarterback right now. And that makes me think, okay, let me be conservative. I'm going to take the under at 6.5. They could make a bowl game with their defense. But they're going to walk in again at most, if not every week in the Big 12 with a disadvantage at quarterback. That's tough.
Yeah, I'm going under too. That Stanford game could be fun because, again, we're recording this before anything happens with Retzloff, so maybe this is out of date by the time it comes out. But if Retzloff goes to Stanford too, that's an option I've heard for him.
Wouldn't that be
Can
funny?
you imagine?
Retzloff versus Bachmeier? That would be a fun one.
Again, this is recording before. We were pre-recording this one. But if that happens, that would be pretty insane. But I'm also going under for BYU. I think You just look at that roster right now. They have a lot of talented players on the roster, but there's a massive question mark at quarterback. And again, the fact it would be a huge question mark if Retzloff graduated in January and they had, an entire basically 7 months or 8 months to figure out quarterback, but you have 2 months to figure this out. So I just have a huge question mark at quarterback right now. They could make a bowl game because they have so much talent on both sides of the ball still. But when you have a question at quarterback that massive, I don't know if there's a bigger one, honestly, in the entire conference than BYU has right now. I struggle to see them winning 7 or 8 games, honestly, so I'm going under.
And one more big problem is late in the year, especially against blitzes, their pass protection started to let them down. It got really shaky. If you have young quarterbacks who don't have a ton of experience at this level, whether it's a true freshman or one of the other 2 guys, and your pass protection is an issue also, there's a lot that could go wrong in this BYU passing game. I think that's the thing, obviously, as a whole, not just the quarterback spot, but I'm worried about their pass protection in front of them too.
Definitely. Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.